Hey everyone, welcome back to Inside Argus Soccer. We're here with Cory, Dennie, class of 1990, played between, what is that, 86 and 1989. That record is stupid of when you played 70, 14, and 8. That is just absolutely nuts. 69 total appearances, 61 goals. That is top 10 on the all-time Argus list, placing at number 6. 46 career assists, second all-time, and a member of the 100-point club with 168, the fifth most in school history. Cory, how you doing?
Good, good.
All right, let's just jump into it. When did you start playing soccer? When did you start loving the game?
So I started playing. I had an older brother, so that helped out. So him and his
Mm-hmm.
friends, he was 6 years older than me. So just growing up in Argus, obviously we started, playing around the house. He
Right.
played also around 82, 83, 84. So gosh, I always had an older brother kind of beating me up and his friends,
Mm-hmm.
so I had to be pretty tough playing at home. And then, gosh, back then I bet we didn't start playing organized soccer till probably third or fourth grade, but we played almost every recess. We played a lot with friends, but organized soccer back then was probably, I was probably what, 10 or 11 before I really started playing organized soccer.
Right. Growing up, what was it like watching Argus soccer like throughout the 80s and maybe even younger in decade before, if you saw any of those state championships?
Yeah, so I was pretty young when the team, went to state and won. I remember, going to the games, staying after school. Um, certainly early '80s, watching those guys play. In the big rivalry games, CMA would come into town. Um, I just remember, this time of year, it was fall.
Hmm.
October. A lot of fun. I remember, vividly some of those memories. And then when I was probably in junior high, I also bike raced a lot.
Oh, okay.
Actually, I remember riding my bike over to Culver Military Academy to watch a game, and the game finished
Hmm.
up just before dark, and I had just enough time to get home before it was totally dark. So I rode my bike over to the game. It was about 12 miles back home. I remember that vividly also. So, but those guys,
Nice.
that played ahead of me, having some of those guys I see today, Matt Chamberlain, I run into Boyd Hollaball every now and then. A lot of those guys, Bob Powell, his son and my son played some baseball together. So yeah,
Hmm.
I remember watching those guys play a bunch.
Right. Did you have any heroes growing up that like inspired you to play and put on the Argus uniform?
Um, well, I just remember, no players specifically. I mean, there were certainly a ton of talented players. When I was younger, I remember I just couldn't wait to get old enough to put on that uniform.
Hmm.
And I mentioned some of the guys, certainly, Bob Powell, Steve Powell, watching some of those guys play, the Chamberlains, the Odells, of course. Um, was able to play with Jeff Odell, who was a
Hmm.
fantastic player back in the day. And, just knew that, as a kid growing up, going to, obviously a small school in Argus and then elementary school and stuff, you just couldn't wait till you got older to put that uniform on. And then, gosh, it was just it seemed like a whirlwind now. But I remember my freshman year, just trying to to get some playing time. We had a tournament, I
Right.
think, Heavens Court out of Lafayette, and that was the thing, just to try to get on the field to prove that I
Hmm.
belonged. And towards playoff time, then my freshman year, I played more. And then after it was on, but it was certainly fun and memorable. Like I said, trying to get to that point where I could wear the uniform.
Right. Who were some of your teammates that you admired most and why?
Oh gosh. Well, like I said, going all through, and that's one thing I wrote down a few notes. It was interesting. So when I came on
Hmm.
in my freshman year, some of my friends, Troy Dunlap, Keith Norman, some of my other friends my age playing, but then the older guys kind of took us under their wings.
Hmm.
There was Steve Hudspeth was a goalie, played in the field some goalie. Joe Stone was there. The older guys, like I said, Jeff Odell did a great job of working with me. And, a lot of my assists, I think if you look backward to Jeff Odell, I mean, he certainly could put the ball in the back of the net. You know, Wiley Powell, trying to think of any of the guys, Kirk Bailey, Tim Thompson. Certainly when I was a freshman playing with those guys, those guys all just did a good job. Like I said, to kind of just take me under their wing as a freshman. And then it was neat as I grew older to do that same thing with some of the younger guys to give them rides home from practice or do some things like that. And just things that you did, right? And once again, in a
Right.
small town, just things that we did. So, yeah, those were some of the guys that I remember specifically that just, did a good job taking me, kind of booting us along a little bit.
Right. What were some of your biggest strengths as a player?
Well, back then I was fast, and unique that I was left-footed. So I'm left-handed
Okay.
and left-footed. So a lot of times guys would get caught, they off guard. They would protect, the right-footed shot. And then,
Hmm.
I wasn't necessarily a physical presence. Certainly, I mean, Heaven's 5'8", 5'9", maybe with cleats on. But, man, if that left foot got open, and once again, my cycling and my background, I probably weighed 135 pounds back then, but, pretty strong legs. So, man,
Yeah.
if caught right, I could really put a lot of power behind the ball, and that helped a lot. Shots on goal, obviously, if you could put the shot on goal and hard, it had a good chance of going in. So,
For sure. For sure. What was it like playing for Coach Van Dyne?
oh, it was great. I mean, another thing I'd written down here. Gosh, I remember, coming into, the end of summer practices, doing some of the summer workouts. But then I remember when the two-a-days would start in August,
Hmm.
we would do conditioning generally in the morning, maybe a few ball skills, but generally conditioning in the morning. And back then, heavens, a few of us, we would bale hay all day, work out in
Hmm.
the morning, bale hay all day for one of the Wiserts out east of Argos, between Argos and Bourbon. And then they would feed us and everything. We just shower off, rinse off real quick and go to PM workouts. So man,
Hmm.
looking back, those were long days, but gosh, the guys that we did that with, Troy Dunlap, Gary Williams, Kirk Bailey, I think Mike Meckling was in on some of those too. I mean, looking
Hmm.
back now, those are just great. Talk about team bonding and, getting through things. I remember some of those, workouts and things. And then we would get there. And then obviously, Coach Van Dyne did a great job of pulling us all together, the drills and things that we did and building
Yeah.
teamwork and respect for each other. And, he was hard on you, but he certainly wanted what was best, certainly for you and for the team.
Right. Describe your emotions like pre-game, right when you walk out onto the field, warm-ups, everything. What were your emotions when you took the field and put on the jersey?
Yeah, gosh, it was, I remember, certainly it was great, starting up in the locker
Hmm.
room and, getting dressed and everything after school and, walking out to the field. And back then, I'm sure now is the case, we had to put our, soccer cleats on, at the door. So we all kind of did that together. Then we would walk out
Right.
together. And then, once you're on the field warming up, I mean, it's the process, right? The process of making sure that you're warmed up, everything was ready to go. And then after that, just the pregame ritual. I did some corner kicks, so I'd make sure I'd take a few corner kicks pregame, just make sure I was loose, ready to go.
Hmm.
Get your teammates pumped up, and then after that, it was just on. Do everything that you could to help the team win.
Right. During your career, you won four sectional titles. Not a lot of people can say that. Um, and you finished as a regional finalist three times. What was it that motivated those teams and helped them in those deep runs?
Yeah, actually, it's so different back then with no class, system,
Yeah.
and I remember
Hmm.
specifically, my senior year, heavens, we had to drive down to Carmel. I mean, we played Carmel High School. Their high
Oh,
school is bigger than our town, right? So,
oh,
and it was a good game, pretty good game, but certainly
right.
when you have that many kids to choose from. But when the whole season, once again, Coach Van Dyne did a good job of building us up the whole year, and then he would kind of interchangeable parts, but some parts maybe fit together better than others. It seems like each year that we did improve a little bit year over year.
Mhm.
As the season went along, we got better. So where you start out in August and September, by October we were ready to go. And heavens, my senior year in particular, you look, a lot of underclassmen. There was maybe 3 or 4 seniors. Talent. Teams. If you go one on one, we probably would have got beat, but it wasn't about that. And we had
Right.
other guys step up. Some freshmen, sophomores. That stepped up tournament time and made some big plays. And it was neat. I didn't realize that we had won 4 sectionals. Just neat. We made some deep, deep runs there, and it was a lot of fun. Once again, the process of doing that and going through everything. And there was nothing better than a tournament game on the weekends. I remember we used to go to Steve Hudspeth's house, probably my
Mhm.
freshman, sophomore year. We would go to his house and watch one of the Rocky movies before the
Mm.
games. And it was neat because the one weekend we watched Rocky 2 and then Rocky 3, and we kept going in the tournament. So every Saturday morning we
Right.
did that consecutively for a while. And that was a lot of fun. Then when I was younger, I have to have, maybe my parents would drop me off, but then I had to get a ride from his house to the game.
Mhm.
All those things, when you're younger, that means a lot, to those guys helping out, and a lot of fun.
Right. You finished your career with, at the time, it was the record 46 career assists. And then you still hold the record, I believe, of 18 season in one season. And yeah, you currently still hold that. It's obvious you were a good facilitator on the field, moving in and out of the middle. You also created 61 goals, assisted and scored, I believe. That, whatever, that's still a stupid number. What went through your mind when you were passing the ball, looking for lanes and everything, and how did it feel when you broke those records?
Well, back then we didn't keep the records near as good as we do now. So,
Right.
every game I just tried to help my teammates score or me to
Hmm.
score, right? So I maybe had an idea, but I didn't really know officially. But gosh, and it started, like I said, early on my freshman year. I knew because I played a wing a little bit. That's kind of the setup. We did a
Hmm.
3-man front generally. And but I would move to the middle and do some different things. And then, but once again, gosh, if you look at my freshman year, there was Blaine Cooper, a lot of passes, some head balls, coming in from the right or left side. Once again, Jeff Odell, they were easy to pass to, and man, scored a lot of goals. Mike Meckling was so
Hmm.
fast. If I could get a through ball to him, it was pretty much, a good chance that was going in the back of the net. So we just,
Right.
and once again, the biggest thing for me is I learned, and Coach Van Dyne drilled it into my head. He's like, hey, put shots on goal. Good things are going to happen if you put shots on goal. And, you can kick it hard. So I really worked on that, practicing at home. And when I grew up on a small farm, so I would use the barn as my backdrop. I broke a few
Hmm.
windows, not too many, but that's
Right.
what I would do and always try to keep it low, and that was
Right.
one thing that helped too. So.
Right. The rivalry with Culver Academy was huge, always has been huge, still is huge. What was your experiences when playing against Culver Academy?
Oh, it was great. My freshman year was really wet and everything, and happened to get lucky and scored a goal. And back then, I mean, they had a really good goalkeeper that went on to play at Indiana University and
Hmm.
played in the Premier League in Europe, was on Team USA, and
Oh,
Jurgen
wow.
Sommer. I'll never forget that.
Wow.
And it was funny. That was my freshman year. I scored the goal about hyperventilated. I could recover from that back then. Now I probably couldn't, but just big rivalries and great rivalries. Just getting up for all of those games and things. And, all of the games. There was one year that they smoked us in the regular season, and it was embarrassing. We got beat. It was like 4 or 5 to nothing, and maybe to one. We maybe scored one goal, and then in the tournament we came back and beat them, and that was great. But that rivalry, it's kind of funny. I ended up meeting Jurgen Sommer later in life. I mean, like probably 5, 6 years ago, and our boys, my son and his son, were both really good baseball players. And
Right.
I met him at an Indiana University baseball game in Austin, Texas, a regional kind of, and I met him for the first time. Kind of knew who he was, but wasn't 100%. He said, "Now, where'd you go to high school at?" He said, we had a really good rivalry with this real small school up in northern Indiana. And my friend looks at me and said, "Hey, dummy, don't you know that's Jurgen Sommer?" So then, we got to talking, and he said, "Man, all these things I remember in high school going to CMA, that rivalry with Argos was just
Hmm.
huge. So even for Jurgen playing all of the soccer that he played, to this day, we golf together some now. I see him hopefully like a couple times a year, and we still
Yeah.
joke about that. But that rivalry on both ends, it's not just Argos. CMA guys see it too. The Argos guys see it.
Hmm.
That rivalry is huge, and he remembers all the tournament games and stuff. And, I remember it like yesterday, but it was neat meeting a friend later in life and in Austin, Texas, of all places. And we talked about our little
Right.
rivalry there in northern Indiana. And he said that was some good soccer, certainly,
Hmm.
and a lot of fun.
Oh yeah. And that's crazy how he just recalls all that, seeing as much as he has. That's insane.
He remembered it very well. He remembered our
Oh,
field. I mean, certain players and everything. And, yeah, it was really neat to chat with him about that. And then good memories for me also, too, obviously.
right. Which leads me into my next question. You said you've gotten to know Jurgen Sumner, and you just pretty much listed everything he did. So I'm not even gonna bother going into that. Premier League goalkeeper, all that. How has the relationship been since then? Just like, is most of your conversations just like a bunch of banter, like back and forth, or is it just like just normal friendly conversations? Or
Oh, friendly conversations. We'll joke every once in a while about
right.
something. At the time when I met him, it was about our boys in baseball, right? Both of our boys were
Hmm.
pitchers, and his son went to IU. My son went to Arizona State. So, I mean, high level pitchers,
Hmm.
which was awesome and fun to
Right.
live that through your kids. And a lot of fun there. But, since then, I mean, when we golf, we joke a little bit about maybe something will come up. And like I said, I'm 5'8", 5'9". Jurgen's like 6'4", 6'5", right? And I joke with him and he laughs, and, we do have some funny things. And I send him pictures whenever I am down at CMA. He's got a whole trophy case dedicated to him. I'll take a picture of that and send him
Hmm.
a note and say, "Hey, I still scored a goal on you," and stuff like that. And he just laughs and, but it's neat. Like I said, heavens, I'm 50 some years old. Jurgen's 50 some years old to look back, and we both can remember that like yesterday. And
Hmm.
what a neat, just like I said, just kind of a unique thing that we met through our kids, actually. So how funny is that?
Right. Do you have a favorite moment or game from your playing career specifically?
Um, Gosh, the playoff games in particular, I still remember
Hmm.
some playoff games. My freshman year, we made a good run, beat, I think it was Marion High School down from like, central Indiana. And maybe we had to come back a little bit on them. And it was
Hmm.
knockdown, drag out, just a good game. Maybe went to overtime. Once again, I know I had an assist to Blaine Cooper, and that was really neat from the right side. I was able to pull it back on the right side. He knocked it in.
Yeah.
Um, that was really neat, and mostly good. I mean, there was one or two. We did my junior year. I think we got beat and shouldn't have got beat. Maybe my sophomore year up in West. We played up at Westview, and certainly should have won that game. We were a more talented team, and we
Hmm.
just didn't play as well as we should. They scored a free goal. Unfortunately, I don't think we got shut out that game. That's a memory. That's not a good memory, but gosh, overall, like I said, they were good memories. And like I said, certainly celebrating with your team, no matter if it was an assist or a goal, celebrating with your teammates and then getting back and ready to go. Like I said, whatever it took to win. Certain, games and things. Remember that even though I played up front, it's like, hey, we got to get back. Whether it was a corner kick, an indirect or a direct kick, and played against some other really good players. Fort Wayne Canterbury certainly had some really outstanding players and certain things, to do there that we did. And just, I said for such a small school and, heavens, you look at 20 some males per class, what we're able to do, the number of those males that played soccer, we got the most of our talent pool, that's for sure. So.
Yeah, for sure. What has it been like to follow Argus soccer since you've been playing?
Man, the last couple of years, it's certainly been a lot of fun. I know I would, like I said, my kids were busy with activities when they were college age and stuff, but I mean, playoff runs, right around this time, a couple of weeks after this, I would always be checking on my phone to see if they would win. And I know certainly the year that they won state, I wasn't able to go, but I think we could live stream the game. And then I kept getting updates and, certainly, when they would make a playoff run, and even in my younger days, I mean, maybe it'd be a sectional regional up in South Bend. I would go up there to a game and would certainly keep an eye on them. And then, just appreciated make it to, usually one game a year maybe, but appreciate the program. And certainly you appreciated a kid with some talent. If you see a kid that, kind of sees the field well, makes some really good passes, that's the thing that I look for, play some good defense. But that's the one thing that, seeing the kids play now, the game's a lot different. It's a lot more physical, it's super fast. But that's one thing that I look for. I appreciate seeing that, in all the teams. But I mean, there was a handful of teams there that were just outstanding.
Right. What qualities do you think makes a successful Argus soccer player?
Well, you got to be pretty versatile because once again, there's not a lot of numbers, right? So you've got to be willing to play, offense, defense. Growing up, heavens, when I was, youth soccer, I played some goalie. I played defense. As you get older, then you kind of more specialize. Certainly don't be afraid to work hard. And I know the kids, certainly in a rural community like that's usually not an issue. And certainly be a good teammate, and the rest of it kind of works itself out, and I remember being around Jeff Odell and he was always trying to learn a new trick or some different things, and don't be afraid to learn. There are some things, I was joking around with my kids in the yard. I got to be careful now as I'm older. I'll get my legs crossed up and fall down, but there's still some things that I remember and able to do. And it's pretty funny, but I remember Jeff, and some other guys working on those skills and, certainly made us all better, every week or two to come up with something. It's like, hey, try this. And the level of, the skill and the footwork now, it's so different than when we played back then. I just think the kids have really, taken on to it. And, certainly social media and things, it's a lot easier to find access to those drills. It's like, hey, here's 3 steps to do this move. A lot easier to get certainly nowadays. But yeah, the kids, like I said, nowadays, just, work hard, keep learning. And, the grit and determination, certainly, that helps out too.
For sure. All right, I only got one more for you, Cory.
Okay.
So, I'll let you go after this one. What does Argus soccer mean to you?
The first word that comes to mind is tradition. And looking back, when it started, heavens, when it first started, it was really to get the kids in shape for basketball, arguably is why it started. But then it grew after that. And you look at the history and, certainly of what it's done. And, for every little kid growing up in a small town like that, it gives them something good to aspire for and to. And, like I said, I was blessed to have an older brother that, his friends took me under their wing. So I was in, I was young going to games, 2nd, 3rd, 4th grade, watching these guys, and then, hey, I wanted to be one of those guys. And that was neat. Like I said, that tradition to be passed along to generations. And, you look at some of the names, a lot of the names are pretty familiar. that come back, and it's great to see some of the the Argus names. Um,
Right.
yeah, gosh, tradition's probably the first word, and then certainly excellence. I mean, with it now being a class sport, I mean, look at the opportunities for these kids, and they certainly people down certainly all over the state of Indiana know that little town in northern Indiana has some really good soccer players and
Hmm.
good teams, and they know that it's a good program.
For sure. All right, Cory, this was awesome. Thank you for joining us. We'll be looking forward to see you again, I'm sure, at some point. But yeah, thank you very much for coming on.
Hey, no problem. The only thing I'll leave you with is tell all those
Yeah.
young kids, I can't believe that I'm still on any of the record books. All those guys need to wipe out my records. I'm getting old, and you need to clear me out. So I have no issue anytime a young, talented kid comes along, beat my records and move me down the list. Not a problem.
We'll make sure Coach Vanderbilt gets that information. Thank you, Cory, so
Absolutely.
much.
All right. Take care.
Yeah. Oh, right there. I'm not right.